Okay, everybody. So we're gonna start a new thread in my channel, and this thread will be about Google Cloud Security Engineering certification. The certificate is new and it has been released. I don't know since when, but it has been released newly, and there is very little training about the certificate. Okay, there is only one source of training, which is Coursera. But I mean, it is paid and you gotta pay for the training in order to prepare for the certificate. So in this series of videos, okay, we're gonna focus on training you, okay, to be prepared for taking the Google Cloud Security Engineering certificate. Okay, now this training is not official, okay, and I repeat this training is not official, okay. If you want official training, you can go to Google Cloud um, Security Engineer certificate and see the respected and related training sources, the official training sources that are recognized or admitted by Google, okay? Google Cloud, sorry. So this training is not official because, I mean, most of our training now will be technical and not theoretical training, okay? Okay, we might browse through some slides, but most of the training will be technical using the Google Cloud Console, okay? Now, note that the exam of Google Cloud Security Engineering costs around $200. The fee is around $200, okay? And um, the form of questions is theoretical, okay? It's not practical. It's not like OSCP or any other um, technical certificate, okay? But in order to master or in order to be familiar with the security aspects of Google Cloud, okay, you need to be familiar with the security, with the technical aspects, okay? Now, we'll get started, okay? And before getting started, let me tell you that the upcoming slides that I'm gonna show you are the property of Google Cloud, okay? I cannot in any way hand these slides for free. Okay, you gotta get these slides from the from official training sources by Google Cloud. You can go to the certificate. Okay, the certificate details. Just type on Google Cloud Security Engineering, and you will be presented with the links and all the training sources that you can go to and enroll so that we can acquire these materials. But it's not compulsory to read these materials as it's all based on understanding the inner working of security aspects of Google. Okay, now, um, okay, so let's first understand the model of cloud security from the perspective of Google. Okay, so let me open my okay. So as you can see, this is the model of cloud security. It says requires collaboration, you know. So suppose that when you build an application, okay, suppose you have an application or your own premises infrastructure, okay. So when you build an application on your own premises, you're responsible for the entire stack security, okay, from the physical servers, securing the physical servers, the hardware and software, the data are all of your responsibility, okay? Everything that has to do with data security is a responsibility when you build an application on your own premises, okay? But when we talk about Google Cloud security, when you move your data to Google Cloud, you're responsible only for securing your data, okay? But the physical servers and the inner infrastructure are the responsibility of Google. So you don't need to worry about securing your physical servers. You don't need to worry about physical security and thinking about hot sites, cold site, disaster recovery for your data centers. You're only responsible for your own data. Okay, this is the main a foundational aspect of cloud security or Google Cloud in Google. Okay. Uh, okay. So let's move on. Okay. So there is, when you have projects, let's go to our the Google Cloud interface. Let me switch the interface to Google Cloud. All right. So when you build a, so example, I have many projects, okay, like WordPress sites, etc. When I build projects, I can put every project in a separate folder, okay. So I can organize my projects into a hierarchy, okay, and every hierarchy has trust boundaries, okay. So as you can see here, going back to our PDF, uh, just switching the interfaces. Okay. So from here, as you can see, there's a hierarchy, okay? There's organization node, okay? Departments, teams, projects, and the resources, okay? So your projects, okay, are the parent of your resources, and your projects are the child of folders. You can organize your projects into folders, okay, to make it more manageable. So all folders and projects used by your organization can be brought together under an organization node, which is your company. Okay. So projects, folders, and organization nodes are all places where you can define your security policies, which is very important. Uh, so let me go back to my browser. Uh, okay. So how many projects I have here? One, two, three, four. So this project, okay, has resources, which is for my in my case, it has compute instance, okay, virtual machine instances, as you're gonna see here. So these are resources of my projects, and according to the hierarchy, okay, these projects could be organized under folders, but I didn't do that yet, okay. We can do this using the identity and access management. So identity and access management, in here, we can organize the service accounts, the access roles, and we can define organization policies that will apply to your projects. Okay. So from here, okay, uh, this is the instance, or this is the interface where you can see the folders and the respective projects. Okay. And from here, you can assign policies, security policies, which we will deep dive into these policies later in our course, but from here you can see the organization policies for your projects, okay? Not that it's not necessary to create such hierarchy, okay? It's just a concept that you need to be familiar with, okay? Okay, now, uh, as you know that every project has kind of ID, project name, project number, etc. So let me go back to um, my PDF. Okay, so let's skip that. Okay, so projects have three identifying attributes: the project ID, name, and project number. The project ID is permanent. Okay, as you can see, permanent and immutable, cannot be changed. Once you assign the project ID, you cannot change that later. And you will use project ID in several contexts to tell Google Cloud which project you want to work with. Okay. However, project names are chosen by you, and it's for your convenience. As you can see, I can name my projects whatever I want. In my case, I named my project and I named my project to be WordPress sites. Project number is also immutable. Okay. Now, These aspects of Google Cloud, you can find many intensive and available redundant training resources for these kind of aspects of Google Cloud. We're going to focus on security, but we can go through these non-security aspects of Google Cloud quickly, just to be familiar with everything. Okay, this is explain the folders, the hierarchy that we talked about later, sorry, previously. So I have projects, and we can assign these project to folders and then to organization node. Okay. Yep, for security policies. Actually, um, this feature lets you assign policies to resources at a level of, let's say granularity. The resource on a folder inherits identity access management policies, which we will talk about later, assigned to the folder. Okay, so let me tell you something. So we have projects over here. Suppose you have virtual instances, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 virtual instances, okay, virtual machines um, under these projects. Okay, so let's say that um, uh, let me go to my browser. Yeah. Okay, so let me go back to my compute engine instances. Okay, now these instances are resources under one project, which is WordPress sites. Now these resources, okay, VM instances, let's say application engine, Kubernetes, whatever, these are resources of Google, of your project, which is WordPress sites in my case. Now, according to the hierarchy, these resources or VM instances inherit the security policies from your project. Okay, so whenever I assign broad level security policies on the project level here, okay, these security policies are inherited by every resource named under this project, including VM instances, including the big tables, data store, the SQL, everything. Okay, this is a very important concept to understand. Okay, now let's move on. Well, I'm having problem with my video capturing. Okay, so let's go back to PDF, the slides. Okay. Okay, we talked about this. Organization nodes. Okay, now here's very important. Okay, let's see here. These are the explains the identity and access management role that we will talk about later in this course. Okay, but to understand, this is an example of how you might organize the resources. Okay, so we have compute engines, virtual machines, application engines, cloud storage, which is for storing your files. This is for platform as service for coding your applications, cloud storage for storing your files, and cloud sub and BigQuery. Okay, so BigQuery for it's like databases. Okay, so we have here there are three projects, each of which uses resources from several GCP services. In this example, we have not used any folders, as you can see. There is no folders. And here, the main important concept to grasp is resources, okay, which these are the resources, okay, not projects. Projects are not resources. Resources inherit the security policies of their parent resource. For instance, if you set a policy at the organization level, as we said earlier, or at the project level, okay, it's automatically inherited by all its children projects, okay? And this inheritance is transitive, which means that all the resources in those projects inherit the policy too, okay? So suppose that suppose that I have an account, okay? Let me give you an idea about these service accounts. Just quick. Um, yep. So over here, if I go to identity and access management roles, Here I have accounts, okay, service accounts. Uh, Here I have identity organizations, okay, and here I can set organization policies as I told you. But from here I can set the or create members or roles, okay. Now members are like emails or any other users that you can assign permissions to, okay. So this is a quick idea about identity access management. You can assign, create users, members, and assign permissions to those members and users in order to give them or deny them access to your resources. Now let's go back to the slide. Okay, so from here, uh, let's say that I granted Bob read and write access to my compute engine, okay? And I specified this on the project level, okay? Now, if there is a policy on the organization level over here that says, well, Bob has only read access, not read-write access on the compute engines or the instances over here. Now, you might say that there is a clash and conflict between two security policies. So which one is the dominant? Well, a very important theory or a very important thing to understand about the security in Google Cloud, which is a less restrictive parent policy overrides a more restrictive resource policy. So, seems like confusing, right? But take it like this, okay? The policy is implemented at a higher level. Maybe the higher level in your case is projects. Maybe you don't have organization node. So whenever you go higher, okay, the policy is implemented at a higher level in this hierarchy cannot take away access that's granted at a lower level, okay? So it means here the security policies assigned at a lower level, okay, have the dominant or have the final say over which security policy will be implemented. So always the least restrictive policy is applicable. If there's a clash over some user or permission of specific user, okay, you're gonna, Google Cloud will apply the least restrictive policy, no matter, okay? It's a generous, you know. So, for example, suppose that a policy applies on the bookshelf over here, okay? Project gives user Bob, let's say, the right to modify cloud storage bucket. Now, cloud storage bucket over here, bucket is a place like it's like FTP server or whatever you name it, where you can upload files for easy access or modifications, okay? So if I granted access to a user on the cloud storage bucket, okay, but there's a policy on the organization level that says, well, Bob can only view cloud storage buckets, not change them. But in my bookshelf project, I specified that Bob can read and write. So which policy is applied over here? Of course, the more generous policy takes effect. So keep this in mind. It's very important as it is asked for in the exam. You can see it in the exam. Oh, this is not spiller. Okay. Cloud identity and access management. Now here is the fruits. Okay. Now let's go back to my browser, explain a little bit about the identity and access management role, which is the first aspect of security in Google Cloud. Okay, go back to web browser. All right. So identity and access management. Okay. So as I said, identity access management means that I can, or lets administrators, okay, authorize who can take action on specific resources, who can do what, okay. For example, if I go back to my members here, I can now go ahead and add a member. Let's say test@gmail.com, and I can select the role. There are multiple roles over here to understand. We're gonna go over these later, but I can assign the role of this user. So project, I can say that this person is authorized to browse or edit or own or to be a viewer, whatever. Okay, so from this interface over here, identity access management, I can authorize who can take action on my resources. So you need to memorize that who is the user and can do what is the role. Here are the roles, here are the members. You can add and then assign what is the role for this user. Okay. Okay. Now from here, uh, new members. What new members look like? Okay. It can be Google account. It can be Google group. So if you have Google group and inside this group there are multiple users. Okay. You can type the uh, group name or group email, like for example, test at googlegroups.com, and then assign the role for this over the project or BigQuery or billing, etc. Multiple roles over here. It can be a service account. We will talk about service account later, or it can be an entire GSUD domain. GSUD, you know GSUD, right? So whenever you have a domain, and you have an emails on this domain, you want to access these emails using Gmail, you want to apply or implement G Suite. Okay. All right. So this is a quick uh, go through over. Sorry. Okay. So I think we need to talk about the roles. Okay. So let's talk a bit about the what the type of roles. Okay. So let's skip these over. Okay, the three types of identity and access management roles. Okay, so when I create a member in the identity and access management interface, I can, there are, as you can, as you saw, there are multiple roles to select from. Okay, but there are three general type of roles: primitive, predefined, custom. Okay, the broadest the broadest role is primitive. Okay, so primitive means that you can either be the owner. Let's go to the primitive. Okay, the primitive, you can either be the owner, editor, or a viewer. If you are a viewer on a given resource, let's say compute engine, you can examine it but not change its state, much like Facebook page roles, right? It's primitive roles. It's very important to understand these terms because these terms will be asked in the exam. So if you're an editor, you can do everything a viewer can do plus change the state of the resource. But if you're an owner, you know, you own it. Okay, what about billing administrator? You know, billing administrator, oftentimes companies want someone to be able to control the billing or to control the cost for a project without the right to change the resource in the project. Let's say the company applies the principle of least privilege. Okay, so that's why you can grant someone the access or the role of billing administrator role. Okay, now let me go back to now the second type of roles is predefined roles. Predefined roles, let's go predefined roles. This is the predefined roles. Okay, the predefined roles are the roles that are offered by Google. So the predefined roles are these roles. I'm going to show you the role, which are the roles. Okay. So okay, so let's say okay. So for example, let's create something or okay. These are the predefined roles, predefined by Google, so you can select from manage roles. Okay, these are the predefined roles. As you can see, access approval, admin, application engine for every resource. in your project, there are multiple predefined roles. For application engine, there are multiple predefined roles for BigQuery, for billing, okay, and the list go over and over, as you can see. For compute instances, load balancer, whatever. So the Google predefined roles are enough for you to manage your project. But as things get more complex, you may think of shifting toward custom roles. Okay. Now, custom roles, let me go back to my PDF now. Whoop. Now, so here, custom roles, I can set my own permissions. Okay. So let's say if you need something more granular, more finer, okay. So sometimes if you want to apply the principle of less privilege, in which person in your organization has the minimal amount of privilege needed to do his or her job. So for example, let's say I want to define, let's say here, size instance operator, okay. So the instance operator role allows some users to stop and start compute engine virtual machines, okay. This is the instance operator. They can start and stop, but they cannot modify, reconfigure, or delete the instance. Well, this role is not existed in Google predefined roles, so you gotta create it yourself. Okay, but there are many cautions about custom roles. First, if you decide to use custom roles, you'll need to manage the permissions that make them up. So every role has permissions, you know. So you need to manage the permissions yourself. That's the disadvantage and the downside of custom roles. But as as you scale up with your projects, you're fine with Google predefined roles. Okay, but custom roles are for the very complex settings and scenarios. All right, let's go now to service accounts. You may have asked yourself what are service accounts when we were talking about the identity and access management roles. Okay, now service accounts. The purpose of service accounts is that you want the resources on your project, let's say compute instance, okay, acts on your behalf, okay, or let's say uh, I have an application um, in one of my compute engine virtual machines, okay. So this application, let's say, needs to store data in Google Cloud Storage, which means that this app in my compute engine or in my virtual machine needs to interact with the cloud storage, okay, on Google Cloud, all right? So it needs to authenticate, okay? So in order to do that, you create a service account for this virtual machine and give give this service account a privilege or a permission to access the Google Cloud Storage. Okay, so you would go ahead and create a service account to authenticate your VM to cloud storage. Okay, now service accounts are named with an email address, but instead of passwords, okay, they authenticate with Google Cloud resources using cryptographic keys. Okay, now example of service account. Let's go to Google Cloud interface. Okay, service accounts. Okay, this is service account. This is service account. This is service account. Okay, these are created by default and managed by Google. Okay, but you can edit the role of these, edit the permission of these service accounts. Okay, so this is the basic of service account. Service account is for your resources to authenticate and interact with each other. Suppose I want, or suppose there is VM machines over here that needs to interact with, let's say, the big table, which is NoSQL database. Okay, so that they can interact with each other using service accounts and by the right permissions of your service accounts. You need to make sure that the permissions are assigned for the service accounts in order to authenticate to other resources. Okay. Oh, okay. Now, um, now actually, that's for the first part of the security engineering training. Okay. So it's all about understanding the cloud security model of Google. Okay. So in this video, we got an idea about the cloud security model of Google. Okay. How policies, security policies are applied. Okay. That what are the criteria that govern how policies are applied when there is a clash or conflict? We said that the least restrictive policies applies, the more generous policies. And we talked about identity and access management. Okay. So that's for this video. Okay, in the next video, we're going to talk more about the application engine, the Kubernetes, the big table, the SQL, and cloud storage buckets. Okay, so we're going to have much more videos. Okay, and much more content to talk about. Okay, uh, yeah.